Become a member and support the channel. Old World Tactics, Battle Reports, the 2 Plus podcast.
Hello, everybody. Paddy has madly rushed back from wherever he
Busy
was.
man.
Very busy. It's an incredibly complex life you're leading. We're here. It's probably the 9th chat, I believe, 2+9, that we're going to put audio focused, but really looking at the games that we've played recently. So thanks if you're listening again. Might even try to split some of these up for YouTube, but hopefully Spotify's preference soon and you can hear there. We played a series of games recently that were a long time, I suppose, in a long time coming. They're part of the preparations for Warhammer 5, so we played a scenario from that. But also the Renegade pack brought out the Lizardmen again, and I had a chance to sort of dust off. Which, yeah, I do think I've done a pretty good job. If you can see on the screen, they do pop out still pretty well. But we also got to play a quick game with Paddy's Nomadic War list, or the beginnings of, and my Seaguard garrison, and we'll have a look at that too. But Paddy, how are you?
I'm good. Good to be here again. And good to look at some Lizardmen on the table, which is good. It's been a while.
Underwhelming.
I think there's some bits in it that are really, really strong. I think Lizardmen as a faction are still short. It like Cold Blooded is very good. I think we tried to count back, but you probably failed. What was it, 1 or 2 of like 25 leadership tests?
I think it was more. I think it was way more. Because I could see, it got to the point where I just throw 3 dice on the table.
Yeah.
And then we had to stop and say, yeah, I failed the stupidity before that march past the Forsaken. That I remember, that's the only one that I thought was memorable. I think I might have failed one other test, but with all of the march or enemy-sided checks as well, the fact that it applied on all of that, I think I took maybe 40 to 50 leadership checks.
Yeah, and some of those are leadership checks on 6, I think. First game comes in 5, and you're passing them. It's expected. That was definitely felt, and the power of the Slan was definitely felt, albeit with your build with the Wand of Jet, which gives it an extra little boost. But 27-inch dispel range, 5 spells, and +1 to cast, is it? When you're close to that steg or something?
Yeah.
So he felt like, top tier caster, like dispelled everything when my Demon Prince was in range, and you got everything off in the first 2 turns when I was dispelling. And then I essentially just kind of gave up and moved out of your dispel range and played outside of it. So that was definitely felt.
Yeah, look, going back to, I guess, the Slan, I didn't think it was that bad before. So I think the Wand of Jet thing was good. So if you're not aware, you can get +1 to cast, but because the Slan now has a reroll on 1 spell a turn that it casts, and if you take Become in Cogitation, which sort of fits because if you're going to take Temple Guard, you don't really need the Ethereal anymore. I think some people are taking the signature thing, the 4 signatures, but I don't think that's very good. So really, I feel like you're locked into Becoming Cogitation. So that's a reroll 1 dice on 1 dispel as well. So really, you can control. I felt like I could control that Wand of Jet thing pretty easily. Like you don't need to add +1 to everything. You're getting that +1 from the steg. But otherwise, I just didn't think the Slan was a great caster, but I think it still came in at about 400 points for me. So the fact that I don't know if it can win the game on its own, and a lot of things for 400 points sort of need to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think at least though it gives you I think you need a good defensive or offensive caster to have a strong list. Like with my Wood Elves, the Oaken Stave is what makes them powerful, really, now that I can't have 3 units of sisters. But it's Dragon and level 4 with Oaken Stave particularly. So there's magic control, defensive magic control on the board. So that at least, like, I think we've spoken about it before, but we both didn't think the Slan was broken before. Like every time I played against it, when you played it, I thought it was good enough. It was just really expensive So it weighed you down. But now you're paying 400 and whatever points for something that definitely does something, and was still really hard to kill.
Yeah, I guess we should say we're playing the 25% character limit too, which, look, this line, I always took this line anyway. Obviously, I'd have the Carnosaur, but I think you needed the level 4 guy. And while Pete has had some success with Lizardmen without it, I don't think it's sustainable. I think you need the level 4 caster in there as a dispeller, and I sort of liked Becoming Cogitation, but just felt like I needed Ethereal before. But that was the bit I wasn't impressed by. The casting was good, and you definitely fit into that sort of bracket of, in terms of casting and dispelling, really good. However, the Temple Guard situation, I don't know if it's worth it. Like, I don't think that's the way other people are playing it in the more rules as written 50% characters. I think the Skink Clouds are out there where they play the Slan now can be obscured by Skinks because it's the same. It's now back to Monstrous Infantry and people running the Skink casters to channel spells through it and just play that big poison cloud. So I don't know. Maybe that's the way to go, but I'd hope there'd be more flexibility in the list over time. I mean, 100 skinks running around is not anyone's idea of a good time.
No, and the things you brought, so the cold ones, which I have a lot of love for, definitely felt weak compared to, say, the Chosen that are also on the screen there. Like, they just lack. The Renegade pack hasn't fixed the fact that they don't have good AP or initiative or strength 6. Like, they're 3 things that are missing from the shock cavalry of lizard men. The only things that really pack that punch still in that list are the Stegodon and the Carnosaur, I find. And when we're playing 25% character cap, you can't bring the Slan and the Carnosaur. So that leaves you one element short that's very necessary for Lizardmen. I think if you were able to take both, then I think there's play. But I do agree with you that it's probably 80 Skinks. Because Skinks, look, Skinks with cold-blooded boost it makes them even better because they're basically unbreakable. They don't fail panic. They rally.
I think cold-blooded's too good. I think but it's in the context of, I don't like that a number of the armies have immune to psychology essentially and break tests. Like, I just don't like it. I think I know there's been improvements from back before where you could just fail a panic test on a 10 and your unit would run off the board on the first turn, and you'd spent 15 minutes setting up, and it felt like a waste of time. But I feel like now just the 2 undead armies and adding cold-blooded into the mix, or just immune to psych, is on a lot of the really good units. So like Dragon Ogres, Sisters of Avalon. I know you have to hold on a charge, but otherwise it's pretty good. I find when I'm playing people that they've either got an army that it does 0 against, or they're an army that completely capitulates and you're just waiting. Like, even on Leadership 8, you're going to fail one sooner or later, or on Leadership 7, God forbid, the human or less, like Orcs or Beastmen armies, you do fail a lot of leadership tests, and it just has a really big effect that I don't think has been priced into any of the models at all.
Yeah, well, I think did they bring leadership down? Didn't Elves used to be leadership 9 as a floor?
No, always 8.
Or were they 8?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Because leadership 8, which is where I usually play with Wood Elves, doesn't feel safe. I've rolled a lot of 9s in my time. And Elves are still, the more expensive units in the game. So I definitely feel it. So when you get that cold-blooded boost, although like skinks are incredibly efficient, but they do, once you whittle them down, they do start losing their impact. And that's what I played randomly, like how many 7 games against Lizardmen? And skinks are always really annoying for like 3 turns. It's rare that they're doing stuff on turn 4, 5, 6 though, but you tend to cap out your skinks at like 40. I'm sure people would be bringing more than that.
Yeah, that's what I worry about. Like, I have just become frustrated even just playing skirmishes. You spend all your time fiddling around, and I don't think we are playing at the more egregious coherency webs that other people are, where they're sort of seeing through each other, intermingle with one another, and circling units. I've even put them on bases this time around because there's really quite a negligible difference when you're just shooting with them. But I do think, yeah, I felt Cold Blooded was really good. The Slan power level for casting and dispelling. I think you're locked into becoming cogitation though. Like that's the strange thing. It almost feels like there's less flexibility now. Um, Maybe play Temple Guard, maybe you don't, but everything else is sort of done for. Felt like the Carnosaur and Skinks were sort of the A tier things before Ancient Stegodons were maybe, and then you sort of had to play a Slan, and I don't think anything's changed. I don't think any other units have come on board. Sadly, the cold ones, which were the ones that should have benefited the most with the increase with stupidity, and probably playing like maybe a large amount of them could help, but lacking, I think we've determined armor piercing at a good level, no counter charge, and just being 3+ armor really is not the same as 2+, which the other elite cav have. So
Yeah, they don't do what the point that 200 points
they're very expensive.
for 4 of them. That don't have they have low initiative, no counter charge, no lancers, no 2-up save. So we were talking today about Wild Riders, like cold ones. The rider and the cold ones have 2 attacks, strength 4, weapon skill 4 on the rider. So you're hitting most likely on 4s and 3s most of the time, and they still don't do enough. That's 20 attacks from 5 guys if they're in base-to-base contact. 21 with the champion, and they're still weaker than 5 wild riders who are meant to be the glass cannons. But I would just feel like they would annihilate cold ones, but they're 50 points cheaper. Sure, they have frenzy, but they have initiative. It would be initiative 9 on the charge with counter charge. So there's just like they would definitely take the punch out of the cold ones, for example. So there's still just that lingering, whether it's just a renegade hangover. They are still a renegade faction. The books across the board are pretty weak and random, apart from vampire counts, probably. But I don't know. Some of the points just seem off in that army.
Yeah, and all of the composition, like they just have some weird things. Like you can't really do anything else with rare except take ancient stegodons because Troglodon is too expensive. The salamander's still useless. It's a shame you've got Ripidactyls, Pterodons. The Stylodons get play, but I don't know. I'm not as big a fan. I haven't been able to make them work like other people. So we'll see. But I guess we should probably talk that, yeah, we were playing a scenario where standards mattered and you were playing Warriors of Chaos. I had those lizard men and you won pretty handily. So just so people know the context that we're working within, that we are 25% characters. At the end of the game, instead of the 25% for killing 25% of a unit, it's 50% of points for taking 50% of wounds. And on top of that, in this scenario, I think, and you can correct me if there's more to it, Paddy, but you just had to control table quarters. But if you control more table quarters than the other person, you sort of got an extra point.
Yeah, so you get 1 point for controlling 1 or more table quarters. So if you both control 2, you both get 1 point. So it's just like you capture an objective, you get 1. But if you control more than your opponent, you get a bonus 3. So an option of 4 bonus points for the objective, which is huge in the redistributed kill point setting that they've done. It essentially, if you get the 4 bonus points, it's 1,000 kill points, which is massive. Ends up being, because they've fleshed it out to 250 points a bracket for scoring purposes. So that affects the list composition as well massively, I think. And lizard men are not very well suited, again, I think, because you are forced to take cold ones, which, as we just discussed, aren't the most efficient or effective units. Where Warriors of Chaos, for example, I've had a lot of success in this game with the Warriors of Chaos, which we'll probably talk about a bit more later, but also the Chosen there. You've also got Marauder Horsemen, you've got normal Chaos Knights, Marauders, although I probably wouldn't take them. But yeah, kind of felt like Lizardmen are still left wanting in that standard focused objective capturing.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny, like as a postscript to the Renegade stuff before we talk about Warriors, that yeah, I felt like I'd struck on something useful with them before it had changed, where you could sort of line up the Slan behind the Mandatory Saurus and then a rack of Temple Guard in a line, and we're going to talk about that probably a little bit in a second, how effective that is, and that when they have two attacks each, it's not that bad in many ways. It's just, as we said, the Lizardmen book has no hammers. It doesn't matter. You've got some pretty good anvils. You've got some great chaffy units or you've got one of the best ones in the game in Skinks, but you just have nothing to win the game
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
end. And Carnosaur I've been playing since day dot. Love it, but it can't stand up to like pegs or a dragon. Like it's good, like, and it's heaps of fun. Like, you know, you run around absolutely ripping things apart, but it's not even A tier. And when it's the only thing that can do that, like when your heavy cav can't do that, and your stegs sort of can't really do that either, as we might discuss in a second, it's a bit of a pain. But yeah, it's a shame. I hope, I don't know, they say they're still taking feedback. And some of the things that people are saying, I think Lizardmen are broken, we're hearing, which I think is a bit far fetched. But there's been some similar themes about, well, yeah, the Slan's pretty good and Cold Blooded's really, really good. So we'll see what happens. Maybe there'll be some adjustments.
yeah. I mean, as you explained, though, people play the game at a different style to us and what we like to play. You're, I'm pretty confident in saying, not going to turn up with 100 skinks, but there will be people who do, especially
Yeah.
online. And that might be where it's broken, but maybe that kind of style of list building is just crap and unenjoyable when you take any army to that level. I think
Mm.
the Renegade pack for Lizardmen is powerful, definitely. It does not break a balanced army list like the one you've got there. It made it like I still won 19-7 or something, 19-6, and wiped out most of your army. And that was insane. Cold Blooded was very, very strong, and the caster was very, very strong. But Lizardmen just kind of brought it all down. So I don't the chat about it breaking Lizardmen, I just can't see it, and at least I can't see it in a setting that I want to play Warhammer. So the people that are
Mm.
doing that, good luck to them.
Yeah, I think that it is, that's the focus. It's sort of made some things really good, but the metagame just has a very narrow focus at the moment at the top. And we just have to accept that. If you're still playing rules as written, it's pretty well known what's good. And you may be loving that, and there are places where people are still playing that, it seems. But I think in many other places, people have a bit of fatigue with seeing the same things over and over again. So I was hoping this would be a bit more of a shake-up, but it seemed to double down on a few elements, and I'm more hopeful that maybe there's a broader look at some of the more useless units that are out there, not just in Lizardmen, but in Skaven and Demons and things like that. So, but yeah, your victory, Paddy, congratulations. You definitely, I think, look, you've recorded a battle report, and there may even be tactics videos that come out of this. And I
Yeah, there'll
think
be a
there are a
couple.
couple. Yeah, there are a couple of places where you definitely outplayed me, and I think ground me down. The 50% rule was really good. It gave me dignity. In the end, I think I would have been beaten 19-1 maybe without it, or something like that. And instead, yeah, it was like some sort of, I think you got 3 points and I got one, so, and it was 16-4, so maybe it was 19-5, yeah, something like that. And that was good because like a lot of your stuff had done 50% too, which is going to be a big thing for people who are playing an old hammer. And I think you and I think maybe even more than 25%. And I've come out vehemently supportive of the 25% rule, but I think the 50% for 50% wins is the best one. Like that's the one I now don't know if I could live without.
Yeah, well, if you just do the maths on, so I think you ended up getting about 800 points out of my 2,000. If the 50 for 50 rule wasn't in, I think you would have got 80.
That much? Yeah.
So you got 25% of my warriors, which would have got you 25%, and you killed my Forsaken. So that would have given you
Oh,
170 points
okay.
instead of the 900 or something that you got, or 800.
Yeah.
And it was like you grinded out some wounds though that you deserved points for.
I think I
Oh, you
deserve them
also
as well. Thanks for saying that.
well, you did three wounds
Like,
to a
well,
Warpfire
it's just
dragon.
it's
You
a lot of
killed,
effort.
yeah, it is. You also killed two Dragon Ogres, which feels like an impossible feat. You did two wounds to my Demon Prince, and you killed, I think it was 12 of my 18 warriors.
Yeah, and looking back at it, I can't believe how many there were in the
Yeah,
end. But
like you should get rewarded for that, and currently you don't with the 25 for 25 for 50% or whatever it is. Um, in the book rules. And as you said, it gave you some dignity, but you spent the whole bloody game doing wounds. And if you were to walk away with 210
uh,
points, it would feel kind of shit. At least you got something.
that's right. I appreciated it, and I think it represented that. Yeah, I hadn't just done nothing, and that things hadn't gone my way, but the Warpfire Dragon thing was clever, and I was doing all right there, but then got outmaneuvered, and the Chaos Warrior thing was also a bit interesting. Which the both of those things I think are the videos that you'll come out. So I'm not going to spoil the party on those. But
Well,
did you want to talk about?
it's in
It's
the
in the
battle
back.
report. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a little
So
teaser
it's
that's coming out.
coming.
Yeah, it'll
Watch
be
it
out by
because
the
it was
time this
good.
video's out.
And you've got you want to take credit for the things that go well because there is skill in the game as well. And I tried to like burrow away into this back corner. If people can see on the screen, you might not be able to if you're listening. It just got pretty much a full view shot of both armies, but it sort of shows Paddy's warriors list, which included a Warpfire Dragon, a Demon Prince, Chaos Knights, Warriors in Core, which I completely converted to after this game, but had seen a few like good games beforehand, but I think I'm completely converted to. Your obligatory Dragon Ogres, Forsaken, which are good, and we won't go into it too much length, but a unit of 7 Marauders with light armor and shield.
You couldn't go into what they did enough. They were incredible. They wiped out two units of skinks, charged across the battle. They made it.
Fist fight.
Yeah, they
Like
just
a
slapped
three
around.
kilometer fist fight up and down one side of the table.
We rolled a lot of 4-ups, and it was awesome. But
A lot
this,
of
like,
5-ups. It felt like we were just
true,
hanging
yeah.
for five.
The you with this list though, it's the complete juxtaposition of what lizard men have on offer. Like this is to me, I really like this list. I've kind of apart from the Forsaken, which only you own, and Mike, who's the other Chaos Warriors army that I borrowed, doesn't have. He doesn't have Dragon Ogres as well, but it just has so much flexibility in it. The Chaos Warriors with great weapons in it is
Mm.
it strength 6 on a core infantry unit with AP2 armor bane 1 with a 5-up save if you want it, or 4-up save if you want it
Or
instead.
up on the way in, yeah.
Weapon skill 5, severely underrated, so you're hitting on 3s a lot of the time, and then wounding on 2s a lot of the time. Or in the case in this game, it was 3s and 4s against the Steg, but I felt like they were strong enough with, say, 6 to 7 attacks to do some damage to a behemoth, which is so rare for infantry.
Yeah.
And the other
And
thing,
core, being in core as well.
in core, and when we spoke to Christian Denarius, he, with his list building suggestion, he said if you can find an idea for a list where there's a powerful unit, it's even better if it's in core. And like the Chaos Warriors aren't by any means the like crux of this army, but when you're investing 300 points in a unit, you better hope it's good. And if it's good and it's in core, it's incredible. Because so many people like lizard men, apart from skinks, just don't have an exciting core or a reliable core outside of your skinks. But then,
Yeah, I think there's just a lot in its favor in the game rules as well. So we've sort of been saying this for a while. People talk infantry being bad, and we'll talk later about where they are really, really bad. But toughness for a 4-up save against shooting, and then when you get in, being able to fan out into that line after falling back because you've got high enough leadership and high enough numbers to do it is just that's where it is. Like that's where you know the Death Stars we might talk about too, but like you've got enough to just take that first punch. They are really good. Like if you can hit back with 10, weapon skill 5,
Yeah.
10 strength 6 attacks at -2. Great weapons are part of the defining criteria of the format too. Like if you
Yeah.
can find great weapons in core or something where you can just get 10 in a line, I don't know why you wouldn't take them anymore. They're so far beyond anything else besides a lance, which you have to sort of maneuver to make work properly.
Yeah, there's contingencies with lances. There's not with great weapons.
No, well, you
You
just have to
just get
take
to
a
slam.
punch.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you can take the punch, they're amazing. And you don't toughness 4 and a save is enough, I think,
Yeah.
to be able to take a punch.
Um, but the other parts of this list, which lizard men lack, like the Chosen, I've loved Chosen since the first time. The first game of World I played was with Warriors of Chaos against Mike's Empire, and I got a baptism of fire with countercharge, and I've never forgotten it. And countercharge is
Mm,
still, in my eyes, probably one of the better rules in the game.
yeah,
And Chosen with 2 attacks each, Lancers 2-up save, 6-up ward save. 2-up save is another thing. If your army has it, you almost just have to take that unit because
yeah,
it's.
agreed.
I can't. The maths, I think someone explained this to me and you would know better, I think it makes sense to me. Going from a 2-up save to a 3-up save. Sorry, going from a 3-up save to a 2-up save increases your chances of rolling it by 50%, something, I want to say, because it's 33% on a 3-up save to make it, but on a 2-up save, it's 16% to fail it, I should say. So, like, I don't know, I've explained that terribly, but the jump from 3-up to 2-up is massive. And not a lot of units
Mm.
can get 2-up save, let alone a 6-up ward with counter charge, first charge. And mind you, any unit that can take Brazen Collar, you have to take. It's stupid. Um,
I think it has a lot of synergy with this, which we'll get to the Demon Prince in a second because we're, again, long-time listeners of the channel would know that we've all tried various iterations of the Demon Prince, but I think the list I have at the moment doesn't have it on the Warriors, but on the Chosen for sure, and it's on the Warfire Dragon. But I think having magic resistance allows you to drop back
yeah,
a magic missile outside of range, and that's a big thing too, because I think that's one of the bigger areas in skill that people could do more about, especially if they're going to end up playing in these restricted character formats where they have to decide between a level 4 and something else. You sort of have to, like what you did in this game, you have to decide, am I going to operate on the margins? Am I going to sit inside the range and just try to randomly dispel some of my stuff? And I think that's pretty, like, there's a lot of strategy in deciding what to do there. And, Ruby Ring is best on the flanks. Can you put a level 1 or a 2 out there? With Wood Elves, it's always been pretty good because of the mobility. I think it matters, and being able to just whack magic resistance 2 on something and get it inside the spell arc, it tends to snuff off Ruby Ring pretty well, and a lot of those other the big ones like Maz Mirage become oppressive to cast.
yeah. It also, against lists like this, against a stronger caster than the Demon Prince, because magic resistance reduces the casting roll,
Mm,
it weakens that casting roll, allowing you to dispel better. If you were to say my Demon Prince was following up my
mm,
guys that were just marching forward for a bit of magic offense and defense and just presence, he can then dispel a bit easier because your level 5 essentially goes down to a level 3, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like if you're +5 to cast -2, and that way I have a +1 advantage on the dispel, which is hugely important. I always think level 4s is more about the dispelling than the casting. The spells are great, but if you can snuff out your opponent's magic phase, that's even more impactful, I believe. But the other thing in this list, which, dragons are dragons, but Warpfire dragons, uh, I think they're the friendly dragon. 6 wounds is doable, especially 50% for 50%. Getting 185 points, 187.5 points for doing 3 wounds to it is a big deal. It has a 4-up, 5-up, sure, a 5-up ward against magic, but it is killable. You did 3 wounds to it relatively early on, and then I was lucky enough not to take much more damage or any more damage, so it didn't die, but it felt killable, which is what you want. And we've said it a bit on this channel. It's a kill points game, you want everything on the board to be able to be killed. And currently, things that break the game are the things that you have to just run away from or avoid, which sure, some people think is skillful, but is it the kind of skillful you want to be doing? Just running
Not
away.
me.
No.
No, I think that would always be there. Like the thing I don't get about that is the idea that me moving here feints and moving back and forward doesn't happen when you end up killing each other. The reality is one of you, like because of missile fire and who's the beat down and all that sort of stuff, is that one of you's got to come forward and take more risks because they don't want to take another round of shooting. And ultimately, the better way to do that is to zone and to sort of try to corner people. And the rules don't really support that very well at the moment. But in a game where it'd just be easy to kill things, yeah, this maneuver would be still there. Like what we're talking about is pegs going, I don't like this, I'm going to move 20 inches in it, march 20 inches in the opposite direction. And even if you're right next to me, I've just got to roll under my leadership to be able to do that. Or dragons, and or skirmishes. Like it's certainly, yeah, I don't think it is what it is for the moment, but I definitely don't see this idea of like moving back and forth without contact being good for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I want to roll dice. I want things to die. Like,
Yeah.
when the board gets smaller, it's awesome because you're like, oh shit, if I can just break through this one unit, things will turn. And that's where the drama can come from. Like, you can win a lucky combat, the other person doesn't have enough sort of emphasis to be able to roll through your lines anymore, and then things just get stuck. And sometimes those games are at least exciting, even if they're sort of a bit random.
Yeah, we'll take it from a Wood Elf player that spent 12 months running away. Um, I need these games to kind of reinvigorate my interest back into Warhammer. Not interest, that's pretty dire, but like eventually I just crave running forward and
Hmm.
fighting. And
There's more nuance to it than you think. Like, I've realized that since playing this
yeah,
Warriors list. After I thought it was very much like I don't like doing nothing for 2 turns because I feel like I'd lost the sense of control. When I played it, I agree with what you said earlier in this chat that there's flexibility. So the units were just described. Like the Chaos Warriors were sort of the missing piece to me that I'd seen like Wolves of the Sea and didn't really like. I thought the Chaos core was fun, but a bit flimsy. And this format is encouraging us to take a fair bit of it still because we need standards and things. And Forsaken are very, very good, and Warhounds do their job. But I thought this brick of Warriors has really helped, and I do think Chaos Knights are a very skill testing unit. Like you can whiff, or you do whiff a lot with them, and they're 300-ish points. You really need to kill something with it, and that can take effort. Heavy Cav are great in the game; that they can be killed with one wound. Like
yeah.
Rob from Squarebase saying 2 wounds is madness. Look where we are with pegs. One wound is high risk, high reward. If you can play them well, they move fast, they flank well, they can smash an infantry unit for sure. But if they can be killed by other things. Like you don't want to get summoning by them very often. You know, it's too risky. You drop two of them to something. It's what's happened with Dragon Princes and Pillar. You're just like, oh my god.
Well,
Even
yeah.
rolling on 4+ save, toughness 3 kills you.
Well, God
So they were
save
good.
us when the old hammer who love to play forests as dangerous terrain. Uh,
Yeah.
your one wound when you cannot march your heavy cavalry through dangerous terrain because a one just kills your 40-point model.
I noticed that too. I've come around to that. Like I criticized Rob a minute ago, but he was big on that dangerous
Yeah,
terrain woods, and I actually like it a lot. There's a lot of move through cover, but there also isn't a lot of move through cover, and the units that have it probably should have it. And you do think like I've had to deploy in a way where I can't put anything in the forest. Usually I'm setting up 3 units of 10 sisters in some sort of ridiculous formation to take the forest, and now I'm like, oh, I can't put anything in there because if I
yeah.
move, I could roll 2 1s.
And
So,
without it, move through cover kind of sucks. Like, sure, you don't get the -1, but the charge
mm,
impact is huge. So,
yeah,
like, you're like, well, am I bloody nimble in a forest or not?
yeah, that's
But
right.
re-rolling the broken ankle in the forest is massive, and it's come up a lot
It's massive.
in the last Oldhammer we played. I was just re-rolling them all. I failed so
Yeah,
many, and then just re-rolled them to safety. My guy just got
so
up
did
and
I.
was like, "Oh, never mind, it's okay. Off
Mm,
we go."
I know, crazy. But yeah, I think so. You think the Warpfire Dragon is better than two gigantic spawns of Nurgle?
I do, which might be controversial, and I'm a big believer that I still believe that what's it called? Giant Spawn is one of the most efficient units in the game, particularly as someone who plays a tree man. But the Warpfire
That
with
is a rough comparison,
it is, yeah,
isn't it?
it
I
is.
mean,
It's
everything is. It's worth 170 points for a
yeah.
gigantic spawn of Nurgle.
Um, but the dragons fly is really big. I know random movement's great, but it can also be shit. When you roll that 4 on the 3 dice, you're like, oh great, there goes a turn, and here comes a volley of poison. Where the dragon can just fucking fly 20, which is a pretty
Yeah.
good fail safe. Also, I guess it is down to the flight because it's about the maneuverability for me. I've been able to kill giant spawns. Alex Searle, shout out the old world behemoths. His one in my first experience against one caused a bit of trouble, but I eventually brought it down. Where in this battle report, anyone that watches it, you'll see, like, I just run away with this thing. I flee, fly 18 or 20 away. I would have used my 3d6 with Swift Stride. So I went like 14 inches away and I was like, oh, he's safe. And then the next turn I rallied and just marched at 20 back into your rear, where you can't do that with giant spawns. And giant spawns just end up being pin cushions. Sure, it's 175 points, so it's not like the end of the world when I kill it, but it's almost an easy target. And poison is pretty prominent in this game. The Warpfire Dragon took volleys with a 4-up, 5-up, opposed to 5-up, 5-up. For is that what that's what a Nurgle giant spawn is, isn't it? 5-up, 5-up, or
Five
6
up,
up,
five
5-up,
up.
5-up, 5-up. I just always managed to be able to kill it before it, like, it's a threat, but I kill it. Where the Warpfire, I think, just has a bit more flexibility in it, and I think that's where the power is in Warhammer, the old world, and particularly Chaos Warriors. They've got these units that can do multiple roles, and when you have a fly 10 hammer, I'd always take it over a random movement. Like, is it a hammer, the giant spawn, or is it more just a anchor?
I don't know. That's what I find. I
Yeah,
haven't had much luck with it, to tell you the truth. I mean, I've sent it into units by itself, but it shouldn't really have any less or any more whiff potential than the dragon.
I mean,
But I just think you're right that
would you prefer D6 plus 1 attacks or just 6 attacks with a higher weapon skill? So you're always hitting on 3s most of the time.
yeah, look, I suppose, like that's again, like what I said about psychology, it infuriates me how there is so much high weapon skill everywhere because when it's
Same.
low, which Lizardmen low, and the gigantic spawn is 3, you feel it. And
Yeah.
I guess it's not just that you feel it, but you feel it on the return where, like, for example, I think one of my failures with gigantic spawn, I got it into witch elves, and their weapon skill 4, so it's just hitting on 3s, and
Yeah.
it just they got a crap load of attacks and poison, and it feels like on the surface I just threw it in there like I'm gonna roll this combat and got beaten back on res, and I killed a lot, but I just wasn't winning. And yeah, I don't know what it is either, because I was early on the Warpfire Dragon and liking it, but it just feels, I think you're right. I think it's the flexibility. It's got a crap load of magical abilities. You can just throw the bombard out when you're like, well, marching here isn't as good as I can just move because I'm going to charge something next turn anyway. So I'll just bombard something, and 1 in 3, you just you crap on it. Um, and I think,
Also underrated is the turn off the ward save ability. Like, in this game, I accidentally did it to myself, but
yeah, it is only
um,
3 inches, so I think you sort of got to
6,
be
isn't
in.
it 6?
No, it's 3. I
Oh, is it
checked.
C? Oh,
So
okay, cool.
yeah,
Well, I mean, it basically has to be in base contact then most of the time.
yeah,
Um,
but there's armies you can't beat like that. If you've got that, you've got a shot to do something against, like, high elf with Opal Amulet on a dragon. Like, God, that would be incredible.
yeah,
Being able to just turn it off for a turn. So yeah, I just think, as you say, the flexibility, magic resistance too. It's just a dragon. There's a psychological effect with the dragon that I don't think is there with the gigantic
no,
spawn. And
yeah.
yeah, you can fly away, as you say. Like, it's very hard to get the spawn out if you get down. on wounds, you sort of like just throw it in to try to kill, like kamikaze it, because you know it's never going to pivot away, or you can't trust the wheel that's going to make.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Team Dragon.
Yeah, well, I think when I played this later, and I'll do a bunch of tactics videos anyway, but I played it against Michael's Empire. The flexibility and I added in that Shartak with the black and plate, but the sort of backline units of Warfire Dragon, Chaos Chosen, the Shartak, and what you had is a pretty sort of hedge Demon Prince.
Yeah.
So we're playing 25%. How did you come up with this sort of style of Demon Prince? Because you always got to give something away with the Demon Prince, but I've come around to really liking it in this format as well.
Well, the 25% characters at 2K means that you struggle to get a really good Fighty Lord and a really good caster, where the Demon Prince encapsulates both. It ends up being 430 points or something, I think, for 40. But it's a level 4. You play it with the extra spell. I played it with Lore Familiar. I think both are fine. I think the Biting Blade gives it that extra edge as a fighty guy, because AP2 compared to AP1 is really felt, and it has Armor Bane on Biting Blade, and it's like 15 points. So essentially, I think it's 15 points. So you're essentially paying 15 points for an extra AP Armor Bane 1, which on the Demon Prince I think is really, really good, because I've had him in combat so many times and he can whiff. And the way I want to play him now almost forever is as a blaster mage in the background, slash, like, clearing out roadblocks and chaff and being a presence in support to fly 9 charge someone in the flank. And then, but obviously aggressively rolling and re-rolling Gaze of the Gods to beef him up over time. And then when you get to turn 4 and turn 5, he's coming in with, 7 weapon skill, 8 attacks, strength 7, and I take Demonic Familiars, which I think Mike Bastow got me on board with that. It's just that has that random spike variation. Anything that can ignore armor saves means you can charge him as a last ditch effort into, say, Demigryphs or something, who had 2+ armor save and randomly spike 2 6s, and there's 2 more wounds for combat res, because the killer for him is unstable. It's always been the thing that we kind of struggled with, and we've seen backfire a lot in my experience with him. So really, you're just fighting for combat res so he doesn't die with unstable. Obviously, you want to do as many wounds as you want, but you want to reduce your chance to whiff, is what I've kind of built him towards. And if you're just rolling around throwing Ruby Ring and the summoning at chaff while you kind of create your lanes of attack, then I think that's been the most successful way I've run him so far, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely liked Armor of Meteoric Iron. I felt like once it landed on Demonology, so the critical spells getting the summoning. With the Ruby Ring, so you have 2 magic missiles that you can pop, which we've just put out that video. I think you've got one coming on magic missiles, but to me, like great weapons, magic missiles are format defining. Just their ability to rip through skirmishes and score points is unparalleled, really. Like, they can run away otherwise and hide behind things. It's sort of the only thing that can do it at some points. There's either too much cover or you can't catch them. So I think that's the starting point. And then when I played Demonology, like something I can't stand having useless spells. And if you're playing Battle Magic, Curse of Cowardly Flight, Curse of Arrow Attraction are going to be bad to start. Like just an Oaken Shield is going to be bad. So you're down 3 already. Yeah. And the others are good, but you're going to need to roll them. So you're going to miss one of those unless you take Lore Familiar. But with Demonology, I've found that only Vortex of Chaos is useless. Like, even Demonic, the one that is normally... Vigor. No, Vessel.
Yeah. Vessel.
When you get +1 attack, -1 AP, and +1 strength, it's just, that's exactly what it needs. Like, I went from... I had needed to charge with it to bail a unit out, and it just tipped it into pretty much no armor saves, wounding on 2s. I just had to get to hit, which is always the nervous bit. But I had like luckily rolled attacks beforehand. But even if I just gone in with 6 attacks with an average, like hoping to land 4, if I'd hit 3 of them, I was probably going to wound at least 2. And as you say, like really, it's just the redundancy, is essentially getting 2 assailments, demonic familiars and demonic vessel. They don't do a lot, but they just add up to tip you over. Like the
Yeah.
beast stat line overcomes that. You just got to win by 1 or draw the combat because you're just chewing through guys. You just
Yeah.
can't lose on
Just
res because
can't
you'll pop.
lose. Yeah. Yeah, that's what
So it's pretty
I've
good.
discovered with him for sure.
But the
And
biting blade was good. Like it was
yeah,
AP3, AB1, so you're getting pretty much no save. And I think, yeah, that's what like favors. You've got to just go aggressive because if you can suddenly just be this weapon skill 9 or 6 attack or leadership 10 guy running around, and all of those things are huge with the 360 movement, just sort of shepherding the rest of the guys who are pretty much on full send a lot of the time.
yeah, he was good. And in that photo here, which if you're listening on Spotify, you won't be able to see, but so something I was able to do with him because of his versatility and his flexibility. The hill to the left of him, that the Forsaken uh, next to your cold ones end up wrapping around that impassable terrain and are in charging distance, I believe, of the Forsaken. So I moved him onto that hill so that if you did charge, then you had to deal with my Demon Prince, and if you didn't, I just blow up the skinks who are next to them. So he just has that flex in the early game where he can be a support piece and just annihilate 5 models with a magic missile per turn, particularly for an elf hiding in a wood with no armor and toughness 3.
Mm.
So yeah, I think I've always loved the idea of the Demon Prince, and I'm glad I've landed on something that works. Because I toyed with a lot in the list building of doing the Sorcerer Lord, Chaos Lord, which
Mm.
Sorcerer Lord, and what's the Aspiring Champion or whatever it is, the one in the middle,
Yeah.
um, as like a bit
Exalted.
exalted, yeah.
It's like a hero.
And it's just kind of boring. Like
Yeah,
the
I think
Demon
it's
Prince is
boring too.
the Demon Prince is fun, and it's like the only real flavorful piece outside of the Warpfire Dragon in my eyes. Like Dragon Ogres are just kind of a random thing to me, but the rest of the army is kind of mortals, as Mike Basto likes to call them, where the Demon Prince is kind of leading them. So it kind of thematically adds a little piece to me, I think.
I think the other thing I'd say is it just has a lot of features of good things like the 360 move and it being able to just, yeah, fly in the background. It does, like, right now, that's what you want. Like, you don't want to be committed with your level 4 early. The last tournament, I played a level 4 where I was just committed to attacking, and even though it had buffs and things to do that, it didn't. Like you just lost that flexibility, so you're just always attacking, and even if the opponent you needed to slot into a dispel situation. So I think the fact that it's sort of really ideally sitting back to begin with, accruing favors, and then trying to, missiling maybe scouts or anything that gets through. And, let's add to adding Steed of Shadows, which is crazy in the event we're going to play, or like a pretty good spell, but because of Warriors and Forsaken has gotten a lot better in this list. But on top of that, Demonic Vigor, I'll come back around to this sometime in the future, but I do think even -1 or +1 movement is just enormous because that's where all the skill is in the game. So I've found it incredible, Demonic Vigor, like more better than Vessel, which I used to think was awesome. But when I think back on some of the games I've played too, I've lost to people who've just vigored that extra movement to be able to charge my unit, have got off their charge and won the game because of that, and something that I hadn't foreseen so much. So yeah, to me, it's the ideal general, and I think when you combine it with the Warpfire Drag, or the fact you can combine the level 4
Yeah,
caster and the mostly level 10 or 9/10 leadership, which is very maneuverable, and then late in the game you're mopping up garbage or you're coming in like a sledgehammer because you've got like so many attacks and you've been able to pick the battle so you can sort of manipulate whether or not, like, you're not going to run into an infantry brick with that unit, but you can take down even a steg, which is sort of, it was dicey, but it was, you felt like I felt like it was me who had to pull off the luck, not you. It was probably like 65-35.
Yeah, and you still get to bring a dragon, as you said, which people at this tournament we're prepping for are probably thinking dragon or blaster mage.
Mm.
Where in this one you get to bring a level 4, a cool fighty guy that's very strong, and a dragon that's not a full blown ridden dragon, but it's pretty bloody close.
Yeah, I think so. It was a good game. Taught me a lot about it. I don't know if you're listening for Old Hammer. I didn't, out of the three scenarios, I think this is the one that you've got to worry about the least in terms of list building for. You're going
Yeah,
to want standards, but it's a bit win more-ish. As long as you can preserve those you probably want to preserve the standards again. Why Chaos Knights are so good, because if they just survive, they're likely to be forward contesting a quarter on the other side of the board. But we've sort of seen this type of scenario before. It's just worth a little bit more. The points are worth a little bit less. You want to go for the points and be able to claim it, but the other two you really have to change the way you play, I
yeah,
think, to
I think that's
win.
fair. That's definitely
So
fair.
yeah, well, we'll go to the last part, which we touched on a little bit because
Just
we
before
did
you
get another
do,
game.
do you mind if I'll just give our patrons a quick shout out,
Oh, thanks, Paddy. Yes, you should.
just so they get their clout, because they are
I didn't
helping
get the
us.
little I should have got the slide up
The slide,
for
I can
Silver
share it.
Dave.
I've got it here. Here, let me just for those watching, they like to I'm going to take over, Alex. I think if I can figure this out. Where's it gone? No, hold on. It's worth it. I promise.
I think I can remember off the top of my head. We've got Sick,
We do.
Silver Dave,
Here they are.
Jet. Thank you, Jeff, for crossing over to Patreon for us.
Yeah, and for printing my orcs, and we've got Gomo, the
Gomo,
Old World Fanatics fame.
yes, thanks, and Ghost, who the Old World Behemoths. We can shout them out. You can find them online as well on YouTube.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be talking about sports next, which will be very interesting, I
yeah.
think.
Something that's very close to our heart, to be honest. Our heart.
Very
Sounds pretty
close.
sentimental, but to our old
Care
world
about
being,
deeply.
we do.
Yeah.
But I do want to take the time to thank these guys, because we're investing time and effort into this and pouring some money into it now. So these 5 helping us do that. And if you'd like to help out, then our Patreon details are in the link to the description to this video. So if you want to,
Yeah,
by all
might
means,
move me
get
up
in
from
there.
these headphones Paddy makes me use.
One
That,
day.
I use for jogging and other purposes. So
Sorry.
it'd be great to have a dedicated.
One day I'll get you.
uh, I'll go to Axis Last Shot because this was a
Yeah.
game I was actually looking forward to for a long time. As much as I like playing Lizard Men, I have had a fair go with them. And however, the High Elf Arcane Journal came and went, and I had enough. I didn't have any white lines painted, so that's going to be a long way off. But I did have Seaguard stuff, and I got it all painted up and ordered my Whirlworm. I should have had it in shot here. But we got to play against the same thing for you, Paddy, where Nomadic War finally made the table.
1,250 points. It's what I've essentially got painted up at the moment. But what I'm planning to take to Old Hammer, unless Orion comes out, which I'll let it be known, might sway me back to the dreaded band Wood Elves. But the list that I have is essentially built around a Boar Boy Death Star of 12, which at 1,250 points, 12 Boar Boys with a mage and a Black Orc guy in there may have been a bit too much, but I've probably never felt more powerful in my life. I never.
Well, can we talk about...
Yeah, sorry. Go.
We'll talk about the fun parts because, yeah, it was dominant and it is interesting. I think there's probably some stuff we'll say about Death Stars because we've talked about it for a while. But, yeah, I don't know if I felt power, but it definitely felt hopeless.
Yes.
Or, like, that's what I would say. And... yeah, I think it's as big a feature of the game as dragons. Like, if anything, I don't know if I'd rather play against a dragon. Like, I feel like it's almost more aesthetic. But I don't mind the stampeding cavalry type thing. But, yeah, some of these massive blocks of infantry that are just big for the sake of being big, it's certainly something to look out for. They're not going anywhere in the game. So many of the rules support what they do.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about the Death Star, I suppose, a bit later, but there were fun elements to this army. I'm playing Nomadic Warriors. When I wanted to play Nomadic Warriors, before I knew that taking a giant block of boar boys would be really powerful, although that should probably be self-explanatory. But I really, if my time in Old World ends, I want to have had a successful game with chariots. I find them awesome. I think their spike value is awesome with their impact hits and strength 5 and usually good guys on top. But they're so hard to be effective because of no swift stride, and speed is just the name of the game in the Old World. And I had 2 Black Orc chariots in this list, which I still think have a lot of potential, and I will get them to work one day. But we had you worked around them perfectly. Still, like I put them in your face. You moved up your sea guard to stop my impact hits. I was forced to charge. I didn't get my impact hits. I lost. I fled off the board.
Oh yeah, I forgot that one. That was no. I think I quit. Yeah,
I broke, and then you charged me the next turn, and then I had to flee, and I fled off the board.
But there was 3 chariots. I did come away with 4 if you count mine, which is the deluxe chariot. But
the Rolls Royce
is good. It's just swanned around doing nothing and then fled away when it got massacred. But I think it's amazing. Like I did come away today thinking about it that they're like the median unit in Warhammer. So I said before Basiladons are not very good because they're 4 wounds. So like a cannonball, those D3+1 things, just they can one-shot you and you live on the edge of that. But they tend to be, as you say, like on the edges with no swift stride, trying to get in, and they just cost enough that they're worth killing. They don't cost enough that they're going to be your whole army. And you just sort of like, I guess to be sure, we're not talking about characters mounted on chariots, which are really just there because of the efficiency in terms of wounds and being essentially not getting multi-wounded with Killing Blow and Monster Slayer. But I did think there were fun moments. So the wolf chariot burst past the merworm, and then I spent about, 45 minutes deciding on whether I was going to shoot it with my rando bolt thrower or the Seafarer's bow. And I don't know I took it down like pretty quickly actually in that sequence, which was lucky. But the other one, like that caused some friction, some angst. And then the Merworm Black Orc fight was good. Like it took 3 wounds off the Merworm, even though it -1 strength, which is sort of what I think was sort of expectable. Like it got the charge on it. And then the other one, was classic. Just like, I don't know, like sort of lumbered forward and just was awkwardly positioned and was on its own, had to make this charge. It just bounced.
I got a bit excited.
One impact hit, maybe? I think he did. I think he just.
No, I didn't get any. I didn't get any impact hits because I
did the charge into range. It's the most deflating move in Warhammer, isn't it?
It is.
Like the whole, I'm just going to charge to within 1 inch of you, but I've got to get more shots of it. It's probably one of the well, not the last, but it's one of the areas of strategy that I've got to get right. It's so good. Just move into them to the hip.
Excuse me. I'd also had about 5 glasses of wine at this time, and I was like, "Let's fucking go, baby! Let's get this thing in there." And I just went brop, and I didn't think about it. And I got there, and I was like, "Oh crap! He can just move up and stop me." But I think there's so much fun potential in this Nomadic War list. But just going back to the Death Star briefly, like this Death Star, which has a Black Orc war boss on a boar and a level 4 on a boar in it, who has a Law Familiar to take Oaken Shield to give the unit a 5-up ward save. And it also has the glowy green amulet, so any spell targeting it is dispelled on a 2+. And you can do the War special ability. The mage gets +1 to cast for being in a unit of orcs. Choppers with counter charge and the War ability, as I mentioned before, means you can re-roll hits and ones on wounds or something. And when I eventually got into combat off a charge into your Sea Guard, which was like 23 models strong, I think I killed them all or something. I did like 18
My
wounds.
standard bearer ran.
Yeah, you
His
stand.
she, the androgynous elves. It just bolted. But yeah, I think he killed 14 of them.
14. That is
I
just like
know. And I said like I had a good like I was also trying to see what would happen. Like I don't think it
yeah,
would have ended any differently, but I got what I wanted. Like I sort of moved into your charge range again, 1 inch away. I had them with the full rank bonus to start with. I had, did I think I struck first with reflexes, the
yeah.
spears. I probably forgot to stand and shoot, but it would have been like 5 guys because I realized later they got quick shot, or
Oh
something to
yeah,
do with naval discipline. Sorry, but I don't think that would have done a lot of damage. Like it was interesting just to see, yeah, the power differential. And like that, there's no hope for those units, like toughness 3 infantry. There's no real hope. Like they could be part of a bigger plan where you could see one Griffin standard Empire unit with a bunch of cannons and knights, sort of meaning that nothing gets through. But as part of the main line, you've just got zero hand. They just melt.
yeah. And you kind of put it offline. You put it well, where it's like the Death Star just it forces you to like take bad engage. Like you have to take bad engagements against it. You can't run away forever. So it's like the dragon. You kind of have to feed it stuff, and you're kind of setting parameters around not engaging rather than engaging. And
Mm.
that to me doesn't like lean into fun very well. It's powerful and it'll
Yeah, I
win
think
games.
it makes a lot of sense when you just think it through that it's just all in. Like the dragons, when they cost 500 points, you're all in. But the rules of the game, as you said, with like if you think about what you just stacked onto that unit, and that Oaken Shield thing's pretty common. I think Ogre players use it.
Yeah.
But like there's heaps of them around. Like the game rules favor this sort of approach, and that's what saddens me a little bit. That to me, the game is like in this game had a lot of diversity. Like it was still fun. Like it was very fun. I
Mm.
thought this game, and because we're playing with diverse units, and that's what I think it should be about. Like because you're seeing these different armies, but with things like Fabigo, like yeah, I do think against Death Stars, you're forced to try to line up first charge, get different things going on. Then you've got to be able to hang on, which the elf armies definitely cannot. Like you can't break them. Like you can do a whole crapload of damage, but they'll just Fabigo in
Yeah.
the end. You're not going to double outnumber the Death Star. So they're going to pop through. Then you're out of sequence, and all of your sort of flanks and rear charges don't work. So really, yeah, you can feed it chaff and try to whittle it away. But I was really disappointed actually in Bow the Seafarer. I think it's overhyped. The bolt thrower was 80 points, and like bolt throwers are piss weak. Like the 2 wounds is a problem being stationary.
Yes.
But yeah, like even rolling to hit, like the bolt thrower hits on threes most of the time in the mid game. You can sort of hit. You're gonna have to move into a position. I tried to line up, the shot, but there's still a lot of dice. You don't just kill 4 guys with it very often. And I think it's just starting at strength 5.
Yes, it
Strength 5
sucks.
is sort of the if you know number, just not as good as people might make it out to be. Like it's good in a rando wind blast, but it can't be the centerpiece of your main unit. Like Dragon Princess is just not good enough. It doesn't get it done. So yeah, like I think I chipped away maybe 4 of those guys before I had to face them, but it was never going to be. Yeah, I was never going to be able to stand up to them.
Yeah. Yeah, the strength 5 thing's real. I feel that on Wild Riders, for example, and even this unit of Boar Boys. I'm almost locked into taking the banner of butchery, which takes them up to
Mm.
strength 6 on the charge because they have cav spears.
Yeah.
Which I think is so important because otherwise I'm hitting on 4s and 3s instead of 4s and 2s with the banner of butchery most of the time. But when you're 4s and 3s, you don't get
Yeah.
as many in as you think you will. And if you're 4s and 2s, at least you have that 2 safety net. Because the amount of times I've whiffed on 3s and 3s with Wild Riders, when you just roll a bunch of 2s, you're just
Mm.
like, well, fuck.
Yeah.
And I definitely think Strength 6 is the the bar. Much like I think toughness 5 is kind of the bar. Toughness 4 is great, but once you get to toughness 5, things are more likely wounding you on 3s, and you seem double as resilient as a toughness 4 thing. And don't get me started on toughness 3. But they're
But
kind of
that's
like,
just going back to like warriors and core ones. That the
yeah,
warriors being able to get strength 6 and a core unit. I mean, the one I'm running, it comes under less than 200 points.
yeah,
And then core ones, you have strength 5, AP 1.
mm,
Um, it's just on the charge, and that's with the riders. You're only getting strength 4 AB1 on the
yeah,
bottom,
yeah,
which is fine. It's way better than most other steeds, but I think that it's just a break point that if you weren't incentivized in other ways to put them all together, but the problem is that you're seeing a lot of armies that have maybe 5 units, and it's just part of the format, and it might be like I think if you're seeing a Chaos Dwarf list, I'd be shocked if they have more than one core unit anymore. And there's lots of like dwarfs. I think they're the best ways to play those lists. So probably even undead armies, like yeah, there might be some chaff redirection in there, but generally like one big unit as well. It's just you can't break through it. So it just means I think a lot of the diversity in the game is lost. A lot of the interesting scenarios are lost, and what happens when you can't kill it at all?
yeah.
You're forced to either just try to peck at it and run away, which is just crap. Like it's crap, but whose fault is that? The person who takes the Death Star or the person who takes the sort of runaway list to try to counter it?
Tell you whose fault it's not. The guy who brings one of every unit with like a max points of 250 per unit. That guy's just going to get wrecked by both of those
Wrecked.
skeevers.
The good old Merwin. Fun.
Yeah,
225 points though. What
yeah,
the hell?
man. Yeah, man. Rolling my strangle roots on a tree man stand and shoot. It's fun.
I
It
wonder if it's
does
better. It's
nothing.
got to be better than
It's
Achievement.
definitely. I mean, if
Because
they
you'll
would
go down
have,
to strength 4.
yeah, a giant tree, strength 4.
The
Yeah.
minus strength was good.
Definitely, that was
It's
felt.
just fun. It's one of those ones where yeah, because there's so much skew, like in a Griffin with D3 stomps. Like
Yeah,
come on, the difference between 3 and 1 behemoth
yeah.
stomps is so
It's
much.
massive.
And then these silly attacks where you get the here's my one strength 8 attack at -2, and here's my other one at -1. But it's
Does it
you're
only have
like,
minus? Does it only have AP 1? That's a edge for the
yeah, the
tree man.
normal ones.
Tree man
Yeah,
AP 2, armor bane
I
1.
know.
Yeah.
It's getting weaker. But it was a lot of fun. Like I liked playing it a lot in this sort of format that it sort of could stand up to things it wasn't going to beat down the ball boys, but it was everything else was it was probably had an edge on.
Yeah,
And it's
definitely.
just so expensive. So
Do you
much.
think? Do you think? I know you spoke about the bow of the seafarer. Do you think the what's the army of infamy called? The sea guard
Mm.
has legs at all, or do you think it's just too
Like as
much
the
toughness
evasion
3?
thing, I think with drilled sea guard, there's probably like it's like a Rubik's cube of possibilities in the
Mm.
movement phase. So if you sort of got across all that and you knew some rules of thumb, if you're just like you don't want to get hit at all, like so if you're doing them in this way that like you move them to a flank, drill them up, redress the next turn, shoot a bunch of stuff, and then like send your ranks into something crap that's in the back. Like it's sort of like a pseudo Steed of Shadows drilled or Arcane Urgency combo.
Mm.
I could see that. Shadow Warriors are crap. Um, they just don't have enough in the parlance of
Yeah.
Warhammer video world output. They just don't do enough. Like they just don't. Like you feel it. Strength 3, like AB1 longbow shots. You're paying a lot for those. I would have liked. I don't know. It's just that stuff is expensive. It's really strange. Like so, I tried that noble with the bow of the seafarer, and yeah, I was hitting all the time. I just don't think it really like it's going to win you a game for 50 points when you can take Ruby Ring for 30.
Mm.
It's a bit of a hike. So, but I did come around to like Skycutters are freaking amazing. Like full
Yes.
stop. Like this game was just it ended up on the wrong flank. I probably played it too tight to the edge, but they just the free march, the fly over the top. You've got enough wheel to turn around basically, and you can just keep shooting things with quick short bows as a bonus is pretty good. And I think on top of that, like I've come back around to eagles and bolt throwers a bit. That if you had unlimited of them, maybe there's a way to sort of just play this sort of like keep away type army where you do preserve points, maybe take a bunch of shooting. Seafarer's bow probably get in there, but Reaver bow, Ruby ring,
What's the
other
Reaver
stuff like
bow?
that. It's just strength, maybe +1. Shots equal attacks, but no AP. But if 40 points, like Seaguard, the Seaguard guy gives your unit evasive, so and fire and flee, which you wouldn't really use much, but just the free reform on evasive could be very useful for Seaguard. So if you took a big block of them, a lot of Eagles and Skycutters, uh, I don't know. Then you sort of maybe a
I
Frost
think,
Phoenix.
yeah, I think it kind of points out, and this is obviously a biased opinion, but I think elves are really bad in the old world. If you remove the
Mm.
dragon and the juiced up level 4, elves suck.
You can't take a punch at all.
No,
Like
you
at
cannot.
all.
And
So all those units are cooked.
I play the paperiest of elves, which have no armor, but even high elves, and apart from maybe Cold One Riders, dark elves, they just melt to everything.
Mm.
Toughness 3 is atrocious. And
Yeah.
the only thing that keeps these factions in competitive scenes is a souped up dragon and a souped up level 4.
Mm.
But if they're
Agreed.
taken
I think it's
away,
unplayable at
yeah,
25%.
yes, I think
Like
most
the
elves
specials
are.
don't add anything. You just got to play that maneuverability game. I guess I'm a bit tired of it. Maybe you're a bit tired of it, and so I'm
Yeah,
a bit down on them. If I was playing like Reavers, Silverhelms, Dragon Princes, maybe there's a way to make that work by just not getting hit. But that you end up playing 80% of the time yourself. Your opponent just
yeah,
watches you, and you're
that's
sort
the
of
annoying
checking
part.
everything.
Yeah, you can feel, and I know uh
Mm.
Alistair, he'll be loving my falling on my sword, but you can feel people not enjoying playing against you because you're
Yeah,
just
I thought you were
like,
going to use an Alistair-ism
no,
by
I was.
dint of.
I'm not by dinting here, but only he can. I would put it to shame if I tried. But
You got to be
it's
accurate, don't you? And
it's a good way to put it though. You're playing 80% of the game with yourself because it's in the movement phase. You're just trying to get out of arcs, and
yep.
it's movement and shooting, which takes a long time. But like I'm trying to think now of moments that I've had going back where it was like cheering and stuff on dice rolls, and it's usually the chaos games I play. Usually people hate
Mm.
when I roll successfully in Wood Elves because they're like, I just fucking watched you move for 20 minutes and now you just rolled 6 out of 8 poisons and my guy's dying. Where it's like, oh wow, you risked charging me with your Demon Prince and he did something. I could respect that kind of thing. That's the vibe I get. At least
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's a sort of it's a psychology of it. It is weird when you play against a shooting army and they start and they've got to mitigate you've got to mitigate your triumph when you take something down.
yeah,
But then everybody feels it turn and tightens up, and it's really the test of character for people to just take the charges at that point. Like the way that you lose is by you just didn't shoot enough. So in the Lizardmen versus Warriors game, I just
yeah,
didn't shoot enough, and I
yeah,
got smashed. And that's how it always ends. But people get like, ah, then you double charge me. It's like, yep, you just didn't
yeah,
shoot enough.
yeah.
And like, but we talk about this as a game that like, what's worse, watching you roll dice for one turn or me come through at the end with like with all my attacks. It's like, well, it's just the game, sadly. Like one of you's going to be the attacker and the other one's going to be the defender. I don't know if I've played a game where both people just march straight forward.
Well, this will be interesting if once I get my orcs on the table fully at 2K. I'd love an orc v chaos game where it's just
You gotta
like
play Beastman. Beastman just,
Beastmen,
oof,
sure,
here we
yeah,
go. And they've got not much armor.
yeah. Which is something I'm excited about with the old world because I still love Wood Elves and it's going to be where I'll always go back to. Um,
Yeah, I
also,
love Hales, like
yeah,
deeply. I would definitely want to play them, but the relevance kills me. Like that it's not. Yeah, so many good units that I can't play because
yes,
of toughness 3.
they look fucking sick though.
Yeah, and that's I just like there's a style and they're embedded in the lore of the old world. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, but in terms of combat, they're useless. And that's a shame because that's really where the game is probably the most fun. Shooting things is very one-sided, and combat at least feels two-sided some of the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess I was going to say the only other thing I wanted to add is dark magic is very fun. And especially when you got a Lore Familiar and you can take the good spells. But Word of Pain, trying to get that off. I thought it had 12 inches before this started, and the fact that it's got 18 inches, I'm like, okay, it's that good that it's
Cast
worth
into
going
combat
for.
as well. Can that one be cast into
I
combat?
can't remember. Yeah, I
I
think
think it
so. I
can.
think we checked it, that might be the
Word of
case.
Pain. Word of Pain can be cast target an enemy unit engaged in combat.
Mm.
It's a 10 plus to cast, but it bloody feels worth it when you get it.
And I'm coming around to Doombolt a little bit just because of the range. That if you got this
Yeah.
weak caster who's got to sit back, 24 inches is incredible. Well, I don't know what the other spell I took that because I don't think I took Battle last
Wasn't
because
battle
I wasn't
last.
going to use
No.
it. But I just thought, yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the Stormweaver's such, I mean, it saddens me again, but just the lack of care they've put into some of these characters. Like the Stormweaver could just have like 2 other random abilities and be awesome, but
Well,
it's
just
just
put it on a fucking storm cloud instead of a
Storm.
unicorn. Why is it on a unicorn? Why is there a like they landed on an island that has a unicorn on it or something? Like what the
No,
hell? Just make him
I
be able to
know. Have
create a
some
cloud.
sort of storm-based ability. Like,
Why
you
is
know,
he a
there's the
Stormweaver? What's his?
leadership 9 comes from the storms. Like, it's the weirdest character. Like, why is it even here? And it loses the most awesome thing they have is that reroll. Like,
Yeah,
I say that like tanked me several times. I think that was my one chance to try to get Word of Pain off when the Sea Gunner are about to eat it. It's like, yeah, I'll just Word of Pain them and I might kill 2 of them. And it just fizzled out and I couldn't
yeah,
reroll it. But yeah, I don't know. They were good. Merwin was good. That was good. And I thought the chariots were good. Like they were fun.
yeah, yeah. What are those flying chariots called again? I've just had a mental blank.
Sky
Your words,
Cutters.
sky cutters. They're
Yeah,
incredible. But
incredible.
1250 was also interesting. I felt like so we played 1250 on how
Short
big was the
board.
board? 4 and 3.
Did we go 4 and 4 for this?
4 and 4. Yeah, it was four and
I
four,
think we did 4 and 4.
which felt better. I think we've spoken a lot about 1,000 points, but it felt like more of a battlefield that 250 points and a little bit wider. I felt
Yeah,
like
I still think it's one of the best levers to pull for the
yeah,
game to shorten or like to pack it in. I think it does something that doesn't feel like a lot, but does change all the thinking about the game, especially with the terrain.
yeah, but yeah,
And
next
it came down well. Like I
yep.
think the whole thing turned it like the Boar Boys won, and I don't think the I think
No,
that
you know
it's
who
hard to.
won? It was my ambushing bloody wolf riders that tore through your back line, killed your Stormweaver.
Killed the Stormweaver. I know. I still feel like it was the Boar Boys, the
Yeah,
possibility of the Boar
it
Boys
was
that
for
sort of
sure.
won it. But that was the more fun part. What was happening in the back, which was going to say it's a shame it's not there. But I do think there was a lot going on for the 6 turns. It wasn't like in the 6 turn there was still combat. It wasn't like we were just moving around trying to save everything at that point.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was good. So we'll see what happens. We've got the battle rep report coming up, or
Well,
has been up possibly by the time
yeah,
this is
it'll be up.
posted for this.
I'll put the link in the description to this video for
But if you spend time watching it, there's other things coming out of this. The Eagle finally got perfect shots of Eagle redirection. I think you should do something too, Paddy, about the combat res in the backline thing. I think that's a real thing. Adding 1.5 to a combat usually tips the balance.
yeah.
With a fast unit, a fast cav unit. But
Yeah,
yeah, we've got a lot coming up.
we
So
do.
if you've been listening this far, thank you for sticking with us. Consider supporting us so I can, as I said, move on from these headphones. But things are still revving up, and I hope you continue to watch as we approach over 1,000 subscribers. Tell your friends, tell your mum, get on the channel. Thanks, Paddy.
Thanks, Al.